everybody. I'm Jeff Meyer.
I'm Michele. We're with Star One Realty.
Michele, tell them what we're going to talk about today.
So today we're going to focus on negotiating. Show me the money, basically.
Show me the money.
Did you ever watch that show?
Yes.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise and I can't remember the guy's name. I love. Yes.
Starts with a Z.
Renee. He's in a lot of movies.
Renee Zimmer.
I like the one where he was in, where he was the diver and he had the big tank. Well, anyway, let's talk about contracts today.
Okay. So, Jeff, we're going to go through basically what we do. Because what we do is this is a business of people. We're always talking. We're always negotiating. So, everything is negotiating. And, like, even when we're just talking about normal things, it seems like we're always negotiating our point. So we're going to go through the contract because there's lots of things that get negotiated. And the contract's just the beginning, but we have to make sure you set it up. So let's talk about the first thing.
Well, first let's tell them, Michele and I have listed and closed over 3,000 homes. So we've done over 3,000 contracts.
A lot of negotiating.
So we know what we're talking about. This year so far, we have 120 houses that have closed, and we have another 18 or 19 under contract that we've already negotiated.
And there's eight or nine that are just getting ready to
hit the market.
Hit the market.
So we're going to hit right at 150 homes this year.
Yeah.
So I really doubt that you're going to be able to watch a video from any two people that have negotiated more homes than us. So let's get started.
Because we don't have like a negotiator.
No, it's
us. We have a friend out in Arizona who has a big team and all, but he has a person who that's their only job.
He has two people that all they do is negotiate contracts.
Yeah, but we like to do our own stuff.
Right. There's a team down in St. Pete that has like 50 people on their team. And they have 3 people that all they do is
they just negotiate.
We're a team of basically 6 people. Michele and I go on all the listing appointments. We do all the listings and all that. And we have a support staff, which we've talked about in other videos. But it's basically Michele and I. So let's get started. We really don't have a format other than how we do it.
Right. Okay, so the contract comes in.
No.
Okay. So we put the house on the market.
House is on the market.
And in our MLS, it gives directions to the buyer's agent or us. We follow, of course, our own. But the first thing we say is we need you to call us or send us a text telling us that you're writing an offer.
For example, this morning I got, "Hi there, Jeff. We just viewed such and such a house. Do you have any offers?" Which is now the question everybody asks. "We are working on submitting an offer. Can I call you in about an hour or 2? And I said, okay. So after I talked to the realtor, just to get a format of how they were coming in, I don't have all the details. I just wanted to get a format on how they're coming in. And I said, when you're submitting the offer, would you be nice enough to send me a text? That way I know it's coming in.
Right. And the texting for us is kind of like a honey-do list because when we're out talking to someone, we really try to give them our time. We're not doing something while we're with people. So when we get out and we get in the car right away, we go to our phone and we do our honey-do list, and that's where we're going to see that. So once you know that a contract is coming in, what do you do next?
Well, the first thing I do is once I know it's coming in and they sent me a text that it's coming in, they usually tell me when they're sending it. So let's say you'll have it in an hour, you'll have it in 2 hours, you'll have it in 3 hours. So I then call the seller up and I say, "Hi John, this is Jeff, your favorite realtor. I just want to let you know I might have an offer coming in later today on your home. And as soon as I get it, I'll give you a call." Now, the reason I do that is I want to make sure that they're home, they're not on a cruise, they didn't go away for a couple of days, just to touch base, to have contact with them. And then what happens is when the contract comes in, then we go over a few things. I review the contract naturally. When the contract comes in, first of all, my wife reviews it just to make sure that there isn't anything in there that I need to look for. But then we review the contract and we go from there.
Right. And when they go to actually start putting that contract together, we do have an attachment with directions on how we like it set up, because that way then we get everything we need. So we get the contract, and we ask them to give us the 2 days, because a lot of our sellers have to get in touch with their daughters and sons and to ask. So we ask 2 days for us to at least get it signed, you know, and all the different things. We also have them send the property disclosures. So by the time when the contract comes in, they have everything they need, and they're not going, oh, I need to review the property disclosures now, and that's when they say, oh, I can't. Oh, we have to rescind our contract because they only allow 2 dogs instead of 4 dogs, or you know something.
We can't put up a fence.
Yeah, we can't put up a fence. So we ask that those agents give us those property disclosures, the contract, the addendums that go with it, and that kind of thing. Also, we have them put in that email what it is, what the price, and we're going to go through it. Like, so the things we want them to tell us right in the email, right up top, is price, the date, the inspection days, the financing, whether or not they have to sell a house, if they need closing costs, and if they need a home warranty. So there's 7 things that we like them to put at the front of it, so that way right away we can look at it real quick. If you know we're in the car and we need to see, or the seller's like, you know, can you give us a little information, we can do that. So Jeff, what we're going to do is the first thing, let's start with price. Everybody always thinks that the price is what, you know, the contract's about, and it not always is. So tell us about price, negotiating the price.
Well, the average list price and sale price ratio in our county is 98.2%. So if the house is listed for, let's say, $200,000, the average sale price of a home right now is $196,200. So not every house is selling for full price. Almost all of ours are, but there's a huge difference in that.
Right, and so why are you saying that all of ours are going under contract full price?
Because we know how to negotiate better than everybody
we do
else.
know how to negotiate better than
And I'm
everybody.
not bragging on that, that's a fact.
Right.
It's a simple fact. We're not gonna disclose all those little things today, but
Right.
we do when we meet with our sellers and we go over certain things. But the offer comes in, and let's say the one that I'm working on now is a $425,000 home. The offer will probably come in somewhere around $395,000 or $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
It'll have certain, as Michele said, certain criteria will go along with that. If they're getting, in this case, we know that they're getting conventional financing. We know that they want to close in approximately, it's 48 days. We already have the closing date that they're asking for. And we know a couple other things. They're not asking for a home warranty. They've been pre-approved. I'm going to have all that paperwork when we get it in.
Right.
But so basically on this contract, the only thing we'll be talking about will be the price. And the reason for that is the sellers have already moved. Right. So they can literally close whenever.
So the next thing when you go down the contract after price is they put down a deposit of some sort, and you know usually that is 1,000 to 10% of what the offer is. But the next thing is the financing. So if it's not a cash deal and it's going to be financed, that's going to be on that contract as well. And when we get a slew of contracts in, you've got your prices all lined up, and then you've got how they're paying for it. And so there are there's cash, conventional, FHA, and VA. And at the end of the day, at the closing table, green is green, but some financing is a little bit stronger than other. So you could have 2 conventionals, and one the people are putting down 5%, and the other the people are putting down 20%. And a lot of that has to do with the what ifs. Like the what if it doesn't appraise? That's where you start getting really fine tuning that contract. Okay, so after financing is the date. So what are some things that we've had with date? Like most people are like, oh, we want to sell our house and we want to move. But then when you get to the date, we have some interesting things come on. So tell us a few stories about the date.
Well, most of our clients want to close in about 45 days. A lot of them want to close in 60. And then once we get into Christmas time, they're going to want to close in like March and April.
Right.
And that's because they're going back home.
Right. And today, I'm going to tell you, today, passing by my house, I'm seeing RV after RV after RV. People are, I guess, they're going home.
They're going away.
They came here for the summer and they're going home.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, whereas pretty soon we're going to be seeing the RVs coming
the
down the other way. Usually your snowbird season is around October, November. And a lot of people think that is when they got to get their house on the market, where in reality, is that so?
Snowbirds buy their house a year or two before they're coming down. If they're down here already and we're in end of October, they already know where they're staying for the year, for the months that they're here.
Mm-hmm.
They're not buying a house to stay here for the 4 or 5 months that they're going to be here, because they won't close for, if they bought a house today, they're not going to close for 45 days. So they already know where they're at for the time period that they're here this year. And a lot of people buy a house in all different months of the year for when they're coming down. We just sold the one on Green Meadow. They're not coming down till next year. They bought it, they came down, looked at the house, we sold them the house, we put the whole deal together, and they're not coming back down until October of next year. So
and
it's
that's
gonna
because
be a year.
Inventory is like driving the bus right now. So when the house comes on, you're gonna pay what, you know, the seller is gonna want, or you're gonna give them the time. So, you know, that's it. So we have our price, our financing, our date. The next thing that comes up on the contract is a home warranty. So sometimes they ask for it and sometimes they don't. Why do you think people would want a home warranty?
Well, the buyers like them just for the protection of a year.
Right.
Sellers don't have they factor it into the price. So if it's like $300,000 and you're given $1,000 home warranty, the offer to you is basically $299.
Right.
So that's 6 of one, half a dozen of another.
Right, and a lot of times the home warranty is if your air conditioner is not brand new and it's not old, it's just a safety feature.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that way then they go, oh, okay, well, at least, you know, we have a year. But that buyer can renew that following, you know, after. So the next one is,
well, let me interject some different markets. Like now we're in a seller's market. We've been in the seller's market for about 3 years. We don't see as many home warranties being asked for as we have 3 or 4 years ago. A lot of times the buyers will get a home warranty at the closing table and they'll pay for it.
Right.
So that's a little different than it was, and it might be a little different than it is going to be in 6 months or 7 months, because the market's slowing down a little bit. But so that could come into play.
Right, or the home warranty is asked for after the home inspection. Like they find out different stuff about that.
Right.
Bringing us to the next thing we have to negotiate is the home inspection. So standard contract is 15. What do you think about that?
I'm not a fan of 15 days. If I'm selling your house today, and let's say today is Monday, I want to know by Friday if we're going to have a problem.
Right.
If they're looking to back out for any reason, a screw loose or a leaky water faucet or GFI breakers, we want to know right off the bat so we can have it off the market for a couple days. We do the home inspection, and 99% of the time we don't have a problem with home inspections, but every once in a while you get a seller and a buyer that
or you have a buyer who signs an as-is contract, but they really didn't mean that.
Yeah, they
really wanted, I wanted everything, but
they give you a laundry list of stuff and you go, no.
And that's why we do that. You know, we kind of insist that property seller's disclosure comes in with the contract, so at least they know.
And we want our home inspections to be 5 to 7 days, within a week. And like we talked, I think on the last video, the last podcast, the realtor that sold the house didn't have a home inspector. So remember, I had to call up Gary with Castle, and we had to use, I mean, it doesn't matter whose home inspector you use, but Gary had to do a home inspection for another realtor, and everything worked out really well.
Well, the other day I had a home inspection scheduled, and the home inspector didn't show up. So the sellers called and said, hey, he's not here yet. So she called it. She sent me a text, and she also called the call center who does the appointments, who got a hold of the agent, and we were kind of simultaneously doing it. But anyway, so the agent had to scramble. She did find a home inspector, but she found a home inspector that didn't do a 4-point. So she had to find a 4.2, and just so you know, the different inspections are, well, you have your home inspector who does everything, top to bottom. And then they usually can do the 4-point, but that home inspector, he wasn't doing that anymore. So the 4-point inspector usually is giving the certificate for the homeowner's insurance. Then you'll have a termite inspector. You can have a septic tank inspector. You can have a
pool inspector.
You
can have a separate roof.
Sinkhole inspector.
We sold
roof,
a house.
yeah.
We sold a house, and they had 2 roof inspectors. Why, I don't know, but they just had a thing about a roof. And then we found out from the realtor later that the last house that they were buying had roof problems, and that's why they backed out. So naturally, they wanted to have a separate roof inspector come out and look, which is no big deal. Everybody does it.
But if in those first 5 days, 7 days, because sometimes you got a weekend there, we want to know what they found.
Yes.
And then if we need time, like lots of times they might need a roof inspector to go out. But if in those first 5 days we find out that, there's something with the roof, then we can always extend that inspection period, because the inspection period does apply to the seller too, that they get a few days to, figure it out. So you just extend a little bit, but that first right out of the gate with that contract, we usually try to do 5.
Yeah, we want to do 5.
Okay, so next thing on the contract that we negotiate is you get to the addendum pages, and that is where the page 11 is, and on there you're going to find sale of buyer's property. That is, if they have to sell that property to buy the property, then what would be some negotiating there?
Well, if it's under contract and it's got a scheduled closing date, usually they want to close on the house they're buying the same day they want to close on the house they're selling. And that's just an extra step. We have to get a copy of that contract. And if those folks are getting a lender, we get to talk to that lender also. Michele talks to lenders all the time. So we want to make sure that deal is solid. They've done their home inspection and there's no problems. Because our home that we're selling is now at the mercy of the other house.
Exactly.
And 99% of the time those work, there isn't a problem. But every once in a while, so if they're going to need an extension for something, that means our home automatically needs an extension for something. And that's okay if it's a day or two. It's not a problem. And with most of ours, they're not a problem anyway, because our sellers are pre-signed, and we'll talk about that later, have pre-signed and have already moved probably.
I have one closing this week that has the sale buyer's property contingency. And when you have that, you're basically watching 2 contracts. So on Monday, I come in on Monday, and that's when I do my, let's see what's going to happen this week. I texted, or actually emailed the agent, how are we doing? She said everything on her end's good. I said, what about the contract they're in? She says we're waiting to get our clear to close, because they have to have their clear to close for us to close. So you're kind of monitoring theirs and the other one. And just because, we close so many, I'm always kind of saying, well, don't forget we need to have that CD signed today, because a Tuesday signing CD means a Friday close. If they haven't done that on Monday, that needs to be done. Or I automatically know, if we do not have a CD signed on Tuesday, it rolls to Wednesday, we're now rolling to Monday. Because back in 2008, when the market crashed, they came what was called a TRID law, which is 72 hours from when the buyer gets the CD. And the CD is the closing document telling them how much they're spending, how much their fees are, how much they have to come to the table. So you have to have that CD signed within 72 hours.
Correct.
And so we needed to make sure on theirs it was done, because ours was cash. So moving,
we love cash offers.
Yeah, moving right along on the contract is if there's an HOA involved, and right there, they need, if they have to have an application in. And so, we just kind of ran into that just the other day, where the buyer didn't fill out the application. It's not our buyer until too late. And we were told that they did, well, they had called and everything, but they never actually sent in the paperwork, and it came in late. And so then what happens there,
it just created a glitch.
It just creates, we're all closed in, but the thing is that then you got those moving pieces, because the HOA has 5 days to approve before close. And this is where they got messed up, is they thought that they had till 5 days before to apply, where the actual document that everybody signed said they have 5 days after the effective date to apply and pay their fee. But the HOA has 5 days before close, but not the buyer. So other than that, I can't think of anything else that we really negotiate there.
Because it's pretty much a given with us because we do so many, but I can't think of any other things that are. And then the closing day, let's say you're closing on Friday or Thursday. We don't like to close on Fridays. We'll talk about that in just a second. Let's say we're closing on Thursday. The day of closing belongs to the
buyer.
So the seller should actually have everything out of their house and broom swept by Thursday morning, like 8 or 9 o'clock. Sometimes the movers are still there and we're closing in the afternoon, and the movers are there and they have everything out and they broom swept, and they do the walkthrough after everything is moved out. Michele, tell everybody why we don't like to close on Fridays.
Well, what'll happen sometimes is on Friday, banks close a lot of houses on Friday because everybody in their mind wants to close on Friday because, you know, they're going to move on the weekend, but you really can close any day before, and then, you know, then you move. But what happens is on Friday is everything goes through the Fed. And so if on Friday, let's say you close late, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, well, once the buyer signs, we always have our sellers come in and pre-sign because it just makes things easier. So if you're closing on Thursday, we'll have our sellers come in the day before. And why? Well, since COVID, they don't like the building with everybody there in different groups there. So we have our sellers go in and they pre-sign. It's only like 6 pieces of paper for the seller to sign their house. Then the next day, if we don't have the seller, we can get our buyers to get those early appointments. Then what happens a couple hours after they sign, everything goes by fax or email to the bank. The bank makes sure, and they get out their little trusty T's and I's dotted, and they make sure they have everything, because once it's done, it's done. And we're not just talking about, you know, we're buying a tripod or something. We're buying a house with land. Everybody and their brothers got their hands in it. So once that's done, then what they do is they send a funding number, and then they can disperse the money. But until then, which usually takes about 2 hours after the buyer signs, you know, so if we close on Friday and they don't get that funding number by 5 o'clock, what happens?
I can give you the best example. A couple weeks ago, our sellers had already signed, already moved, they were gone, and they were tickled to death. The buyers decided to move the closing from 10 o'clock to 12:30 because they felt inconvenienced. So they show up at 12:30 to close at the title company.
Right.
It took them 2 hours to sign all their paperwork. So at like 2:45, they were done. And they thought that everybody was happy. Well, they have to send it off, as Michele said, to the lender. The lender does everything. Well, on Fridays, it isn't just one package that the lender's looking at. It could be 4 or 5 or 6 or 8. Or more. Now they got done, I think it was a little after 5 with everything. So, and the seller was okay. The seller was okay with everything. But because they didn't get funding until after 5 on Friday, what happened to the poor buyers, Michele?
They had to get a hotel because until money is crossed, no keys are given.
Correct.
So if you don't get in there and you do it, you know, then
the buyers thought that once they signed their name, they were going to get handed the keys. And I said, nope, not until my sellers get their check, because anything could happen.
Right.
So, because they didn't take our advice and they listened to somebody's sister, they just went in whenever they wanted and spent all day signing their name, and it took a couple hours for funding, and
Yeah.
They didn't get to move it. Of course, they were mad at us. I said, no, don't be mad at us. Be mad at yourself,
Right.
because if you'd have been here at 10 o'clock to sign, we'd have had funding and everything by 1 o'clock and you'd have
Right.
been moved in. And they said, well, what would have happened? Nothing would have happened. Well, what happens if all the paperwork's sent to the mortgage company and there's a glitch that this happened or that happened?
Mhm.
I'm not going to let my sellers be stuck out in the cold.
And it doesn't matter anyways, because in order for a contract to be executed, money has to cross
Yes.
hands, and the documents and the paperwork. So if it didn't, it didn't. So, you know, if you're a buyer out there, try to get your closing on a Thursday. Take that day off. You worked really hard to get this house. Take that day off. Do your walkthrough. Go sign your papers. Go back to your house and make plans where you're going to put your furniture. You know, just, you know, I just don't
Enjoy the
understand.
day.
I can't, you know, when they say, well, they can't come because they have to work. Well, they're going to have to take off work.
Yeah.
Or come at lunch or something like that. But it just like, you know, when you're not taking this transaction as serious as it would be you going to get a new phone, which I just got new phones, and so did Jeff, and that took hours.
Yeah, we were there
It's
over an
longer
hour.
to get a phone
Than it is to buy a
than
house.
it is to do the paperwork and fund a house.
Yes.
It's insane. But anyways, so we negotiate, and it really comes down to, on the closing day, the money
Yep, our
you
sellers.
and
Going
the
back,
time.
so you got to go with the experience.
Right, but and we're confident. I
Yes.
think that's the thing, is we're confident. Like we list a house, we feel confident it's going to sell there.
Anyway, let's
But I'm
change
just saying.
subjects. Michele changed her outfit before we shot this podcast. Michele, what did you change into there?
Well, the other night, this is my first female rocker, Pat Benatar, and her husband, and they called him Spider, and I don't know why, but they called him Spider. But he does have really long legs, but he can play the guitar like nobody's business. But that was a great concert. Pat Benatar, she's in concert right now.
And where are you going next?
The next concert we're going to see is Todd Rundgren,
Yes.
and he sings Hello and Can We Be Friends, and I'm looking forward to that one. And then Bruce today bought tickets for February to see Don something, Leon, or he sings American Pie.
Oh, yes. I know.
McLean,
McLean or something like that.
McLean.
Yes.
Yeah, Don McLean. So that one is in February.
Yes.
So we're knocking them out.
To keep knocking. We're going to go see, oh my gosh, Mannheim Steamroller and the Florida Pops at Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that. And then that's about it.
Right,
Anything else?
and we're supporting Ruth Eckerd Hall
Love Ruth Eckerd Hall.
and the Capitol.
Mhm.
That's fun. Our part of our team is in Las Vegas. They flew out today.
And why are they in Las Vegas?
They're going to
Michele?
see they like music of a
Yes.
different sort. They go to those EDM festivals, which if you ever listen to EDM music, it's like music from our day that they kind of messed all up and made loud. So, but the coolest thing they're going to do is they're going to go to Cirque du Soleil, and it's all about
Ooh,
water, and
yes.
and that looked fantastic. So I bought them those tickets to that, and then they're going to see the Knights hockey game.
Yep.
And from what
Las Vegas
Zachary
Golden
said,
Knights.
Zach's girlfriend, she was like, I don't want to go to a hockey game. I've never been to Las Vegas. I don't want to go to Las Vegas to see a hockey game. And Zach's like, this isn't any hockey game.
It's an
Before the beginning of the show, before the hockey game, they do this whole Knights coming through, and it's some kind of spectacular
entertaining.
thing. So, kids are having fun there. And one other thing is Logan graduated from college. He had to order the car he wanted, and it's coming in today, and it's a Bronco.
So the next time we'll be talking to you, Logan will be driving a brand new Bronco.
Yes, so he's been working really hard. He's our transaction manager. And
Actually, we wanted to have him in the show today, but he had to leave because he had to go take pictures and room measurements of one of our houses.
Yep, so he's getting all that stuff done. So anyway, I think that'll take our time for
We appreciate
negotiating.
you.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Thank you very much for watching this week and every week. Once again, I'm Jeff Meyer,
I'm Michele Rain,
and we are
Star One Realty.
Thank you.
Put your hands up, everybody knows that.